What do you do when your phone launches to almost universal critical acclaim, wins multiple awards, but is still not the huge hit that you most desperately needed? That's the question folks over at HTC were faced with, and their reply: fine-tune the design, beef up the internals, and try again. Not a bad plan really. So is the HTC One M8 that big an upgrade over the M7? That's the question we're going to try to answer here today. So if this is your first time here, or in case you've forgotten, my name's Ash and you're watching C4E Tech. Let's get started. Let's start with the built-in design. The M8 is 17 grams heavier, wider, longer, and ever so slightly thicker than its predecessor. This is largely due to the M8 opting for a bigger 5-inch display compared to the 4.7-inch display on the M7. The bezels are slimmer though. It's worth noting that the edges on the M8 are tapered, and that makes the phone feel a lot slimmer than it really is. Also note that the M8 features more metal this time around, 90% compared to 70% on the M7. The power button has also been moved to the right. Still not great placement, but better than the top left placement of the M7. Talking about button placements, the M8 doesn't feature any capacitive keys but opts for on-screen keys instead. While that might be a good thing, it also makes for an ugly black bezel with the HTC logo right beneath the display. Like I said in the review, if they had to leave the bezel there for components, they could have at least offered us the option of choosing between on-screen and capacitive keys like OnePlus is doing with the OnePlus One. Anyway, moving past the nitpicking because that's what that was, another difference is this camera right here. It's actually a 2 megapixel depth sensor. It is used to capture depth information and helps with some neat camera tricks. We'll see more about that in a bit. The depth sensor does come at a cost though. HTC states that optical image stabilization does not play nice with the depth sensor and had to be cut. Barring that, it's still the same old 4 ultra-pixel camera from last year. The front camera has been improved though. The M8 now features a 5 megapixel front-facing shooter and becomes the first phone to sport a front-facing camera with a higher resolution than the primary rear camera. Anyway, as far as the built-in design goes, while the M7 is great, the M8 just feels a little bit more refined. A logical evolution in the right direction for the most part. Now underneath the hood, the Snapdragon 600 chipset with the 4 1.7 GHz Cray 300 cores on the M7 has been replaced by the Snapdragon 801 chipset with 4 Cray 400 cores clocked at 2.3 or 2.5 GHz each depending on where you buy the M8 from. While the M7 isn't a slouch by any means even today, the M8 just gives you a little peace of mind in terms of future proofing. Both phones also have 2 gigs of RAM on board. When it comes to internal storage, the base variant of the M7 came with 32 gigs on board, but the M8 has only 16. On the flip side, the M8 does include a microSD card slot. It also houses a nano SIM slot instead of the micro SIM slot found on the M7. The HTC One M8 also has a bigger battery, a 2600 mAh battery compared to 2300 on the M7. The battery life is much better. On a looping video playback test, the M8 managed to last a little over 11 hours. That's almost 2 hours more than what the M7 managed. While the M7 after the KitKat update would barely get me through a full day with moderate usage, the M8 would get me through a day with about 30 to 40% left in the tank. The M8 also gets an ultra power saving mode that leaves just the essentials on and manages to get you 15 hours of standby time with just 5% charge left. Moving on to the display, it's still Full HD Super LCD 3 on the M8 just like it was on the M7, but now that the display is a little bigger at 5 inches, the pixel density is lower, 441 pixels per inch on the M8 compared to 469 on the M7. But that doesn't really make a difference. Everything's still sharp, crisp, sunlight legibility is good, and the viewing angles are still best in class. It's worth noting that the display on the M8 has the newer Gorilla Glass 3 on top for protection compared to Gorilla Glass 2 on the M7. Now on to audio. With HTC selling its stake in Beats, there's no Beats logo on the M8, but that doesn't really make a difference either. The stereo boom sound speakers are louder than the ones on the M7. The audio via the included earphones still sounds great. Audiophiles say it's better than the M7. Sadly, I'm no audiophile. Well, I could make out a difference between, say, the M7 and maybe the Galaxy S4 and appreciate the fact that the M7 sounded better As hard as I tried, I couldn't really notice a difference between the M7 and the M8. So sorry guys, to me both sound almost the same, the best I've heard on a phone. Now if we get to the camera. Well, it's very tempting to dismiss it as the same old 4 megapixel or 4 ultra pixel shooter, and to an extent that's even true. But there are some differences. Yes, like I said, the M8 still uses the 1.3-inch 4 megapixel camera sensor with a 28mm wide f2.0 lens from the M7 and without optical image stabilization nonetheless. But HTC has upgraded the image processing and the M8 uses the HTC image chip too. This results in some improvements. The pictures are a little sharper and have lesser noise. The purple ghosting issue under low light that plagued the M7 has not been resolved. The M8 utilizes a dual LED flash much like the iPhone 5S. The 2 megapixel depth sensor helps shift focus around and also create a lot of cool effects, including an accelerometer based 3-dimensional effect. The focus effects all work surprisingly well, unlike with certain other flagships. But then again, you need to keep in mind it's still a 4 megapixel camera, meaning zoom in a bit and there just isn't enough detail. Anyway, what it does well, better than the M7. Video recording is one area where the M7's optical image stabilization shines through. No matter how hard the HTC image chip 2 tries, it just cannot replace hardware stabilization on the M7. But the differences are marginal at best. Anyway, now we get to the software. Both phones run on Android 4.4.2 kit-capped with the latest Zen 6 overlay on top. But the M8 has some features exclusive to it though. Say for example, with the screen off, put the display in landscape mode and hit the volume key. That launches the camera. Similarly, with the screen off, double tap on the screen to turn it on. And you can double tap to turn the screen off. Note this works only on the lock screen though, turning the screen off. Similarly, you can also slide down to launch the voice dialer, slide to the left to get to blink feed, right to the home screen, or slide up to get to where you were last before the display was put to sleep. Barring these, the software is pretty much the same on both devices. It is worth mentioning that everything feels just a little bit faster and smoother on the M8. So there you have it. These are the major differences between the M7 and the M8. Now for my 2 cents. If you were in the market today trying to choose between the M7 and the M8, I'd say spend a little extra and get yourself the M8. It is an evolution of the M7 and most of the changes are great. But if you already do own an M7 and are watching this video trying to decide if you should upgrade, I'd say wait. With rumors of the imminent release of the M8 or E8 Ace and maybe even the M8 Prime, just wait and see if any of these are for you. So that's just me. What do you guys think? Do you agree with what I just said? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So I guess that's pretty much it for this comparison video. Hope you guys found it useful. If you did, please do give this video a thumbs up, share it, and to make sure you get my future videos right on your YouTube homepage, please hit the subscribe button as well. So I guess that's pretty much it guys. Thanks a lot for watching and I'll catch you all soon in the next one. Till then, this is Ash here from C4E Tech signing off. You guys have a great day. Bye bye now.